All right, Fox News Alert. We are waiting momentarily. President Trump's signing of the official bill to reopen the government. We'll bring that to you live when it happens. We're told he has pretty stern remarks for Democrats. But earlier today, the FBI Director Kash Patel addressed reporters in the White House press briefing room. He made a major announcement on the Trump administration and their efforts to stop the flow of fentanyl into our country in a historic agreement with China. Now, following his trip to Beijing, here's what he had to say.
While at Ministry of Public Security headquarters, I met with my counterpart at MPS, where the Chinese government agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl precursors. What does that mean? The People's Republic of China has fully designated and listed all 13 precursors utilized to make fentanyl. Furthermore, they have agreed to control 7 chemical subsidiaries that are also utilized to produce this lethal drug. Effective immediately, essentially, President Trump has shut off the pipeline that creates fentanyl that kills tens of thousands of Americans.
And meanwhile, the DOJ announced the Department of Justice will, in fact, investigate the riots outside of UC Berkeley. And that was the Turning Point event on Monday night. After several arrests were made, a fight broke out. Now, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, posting on X, in part, Antifa is an existential threat to our nation. The violent riots at UC Berkeley last night are under full investigation by the FBI-led Joint Terrorism Task Force. And we will continue to spare no expense unmasking all who commit and orchestrate acts of political violence. The FBI Director Kash Patel is with us for more. It's got to be a long time that I can recall that an FBI director was in Beijing meeting with his counterpart there. That was pretty historic.
No one's been there in a decade, Sean, and this is all thanks to President Trump's brave leadership to engage directly with President Xi Jinping and make one of the pillars of his administration defeating the plague of fentanyl and illegal narcotics. And that set in motion the Attorney General to call her counterpart and designate the FBI and myself as the lead to engage and follow up with President Trump's historic engagement with President Xi just a few weeks ago in Korea. And what was accomplished when I went to Beijing was an actual full-out agreement to concretely adhere to the notion that we will not allow fentanyl to pour into the United States of America. But you got to break that down. What does that mean? We know the Mexican drug traffickers are making it, but where are they getting the ingredients? The fentanyl precursors are distributed by and through companies in China. And what they have now done is, pursuant to our agreement, where we asked for all 13 fentanyl precursors to be designated and fully restricted, and a further 7 chemicals to be restricted as well, this effectively shuts off all of the chemicals and ingredients used to make fentanyl. No other president has done this. Thanks to the Department of Justice and the FBI, we were able to get on the ground and get in the room with the Chinese for the first time ever and receive the reception that President Trump created with President Xi. And now tens of thousands of American lives have been saved by one fell swoop thanks to President Trump and this FBI.
This is why I believe that the issue of tariffs now currently before the Supreme Court is so vital, especially the way President Trump uses tariffs in a way to defend the country, because the threat of tariffs is causing countries to do things they otherwise would not do that are in our best interest in public safety, but also, I think, are in keeping with his role as commander-in-chief, his constitutional.
Absolutely, Sean. President Trump's a brilliant and master negotiator, and he's able not only to provide for the economic security of the American people, but he's out there defending the American citizens, the health of our children, and the future of our nation. Just last year, over 100,000 people died from drug overdoses, especially fentanyl. That number alone should be headline news, that President Trump engaged with the Chinese government, his FBI director went to Beijing, and they agreed to do this. And essentially what that means is they turned the off switch, and these chemicals will no longer flow out of China, and the Mexican drug trafficking organizations will no longer be able to produce them and ship them and pour them into our country, killing our citizens. It is a monumental achievement. I cannot highlight this enough. Every other president before President Trump tried this. They failed. He succeeded.
Let's talk a little bit about these boats that have been transporting these drugs into our country, the narco-terrorists. And President Trump is committed to knocking them out before they get near our shores. obviously, how many millions of Americans over the years have died from opioid addiction or a fentanyl overdose? I have a hard time understanding those that somehow think that there's any other way to stop them except to do exactly what we're showing on the screen right now.
Sean, you said it. They're terrorists. They're terrorists. Just like al-Qaeda and ISIS, they're terrorists pouring drugs into our communities and killing our children and young adults. And they have to be treated like terrorists. And President Trump had the audacity to designate them as terrorists. And that allows law enforcement and the United States military to go after them and manhunt them in open waters, wherever they are, below the surface, and find them and blow them up. And rightly so, Sean. And law enforcement will continue to manhunt these drug trafficking organizations in Mexico and other countries around the world that continue to manufacture these drugs. So eliminating the fentanyl precursor pipeline, which we did successfully when I was in Beijing last week and were able to announce to the world today. Having the military go out and conduct these counterterrorism strikes against terrorists is how you eliminate these people from the battlefield root and stem, from the foundation all the way down the supply chain, all the way down to the transportation routes and the individuals themselves. We need to be treating them like terrorists because they are terrorists. Any other organization that kills hundreds of thousands of Americans would be designated as terrorists by any other country. And just because President Trump's the one who's being successful here, he's being attacked by the fake news media.
Tragic poll election night shows the vast, overwhelming majority of Americans, both parties, believe that a political figure will be assassinated in the near future. I would argue we're living in an assassination culture right now. We saw the 2 attempts on President Trump's life, what happened to our dear friend Charlie Kirk. Then you have now designated Antifa a terrorist organization. What does that mean? And what does it mean in light of what happened at Berkeley this past week?
Absolutely, Sean. Designating Antifa is another brilliant step by President Trump as a terrorist organization because it allows the FBI and the intelligence community to use mechanisms and our resources that are traditionally unavailable if you're not designated as a foreign terrorist organization or domestic terrorist organization. And what we do, Sean, is we follow the money, and we did it at Berkeley, and we're doing it with Antifa-related groups around the country. We've made lots of arrests with local law enforcement, and we're mapping out their entire infrastructure system, and that's what the FBI brings to the table.
All right, FBI Director Kash Patel, thanks for those updates. We appreciate it. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.